In this lesson, we're going to talk about a skill called goal setting. Now, I'm certain all of you have identified goals for yourself in the past, right?
Yes.
And you've all achieved goals. You wouldn't be here today if you haven't achieved goals in your life. How many of you have ever identified a goal and then really sat down and said, you know what, here's what I'm going to do to make sure I get to that goal? Whoever's really done that kind of goal setting. Okay, so lots of you. Good. So lots of experience in this room already. One other question. How many of you have ever identified a goal for yourself, but along the way you just kind of forgot about it? Maybe you lost sight of it, or maybe you just said, you know what, I can't do this. I'm not doing this anymore. Does that happen? Me too. So I think that question, the answer to that question, emphasizes the need to have a really deliberate, really effective way of setting goals available to us. And that's what we're going to talk about in this lesson. How can we set goals so we can actually pursue them, do the work that needs to be done, but also maintain the motivation, the inspiration, the energy we need to keep working at them, even when it gets hard. Okay? So let's look at our bottom line up front for goal setting. Goal setting helps to build self-regulation. So if you'll circle self-regulation. Goal setting is all about setting some goal that's off in the future, but doing the right things now and in the days to come to make sure you get where you want to go. So we need lots of self-regulation to be able to achieve our goals in the long run. Goal setting can be an effective means to produce motivation, to inspire us, to energize us, to direct our attention, to help us pay attention to the right things at the right times, and to increase our effort and persistence. So even when obstacles pop up or we're just feeling drained and tired and we don't want to do the work, we're more likely to keep doing it and keep making those good decisions. A number of factors influence the effectiveness of your goals. Okay? We can take deliberate steps to increase the odds of achieving our goals if we address those factors. So this goal setting process that we're going to walk through today, we're accounting for factors that often keep people from achieving goals to make sure that doesn't happen to you. To make sure when you set a goal, you've created a solid plan and you're going to stay motivated to do the work and achieve that goal. Okay, so let's take a look at the 7-step goal setting process that we're going to talk about today. So we're going to go through each of these steps one at a time. So this is just more of an overview to let you know what direction we're headed in. The first 4 steps out of these 7 are all about planning, figuring out, okay, where am I going? Where am I starting from? What's the difference between where I am and where I want to be? And what do I need to start doing? What work has to happen for me to get to my goal? Okay, so that's planning. So when we finish off the 4th step, you're going to have your plan in place, written out, ready to go. From there, in steps 5 through 7, we're going to move into the act portion of this 7-step process. What's happening there is it's time to do the work. You got to go out, start doing the things you need to be doing, thinking the way you need to be thinking, and making sure you're staying motivated along the way. So you keep doing those things day in and day out. So we're going to go ahead and dive into step 1, which is defining your dream. Okay, so this is figuring out, all right, what is my goal? Identifying it, writing it down on paper. So again, this might be a personal dream goal that's years down the road, or it might be something like maxing that PT test. And this system works for both of those, okay? One thing I want you to keep in mind here is that when you set a goal, you should put a suspense to it. Put a due date on that goal. Even if it has to change along the way, that's fine. You can be flexible with that. But when you put the suspense to the goal, it's the kick in the pants to make you start doing the work, even if you have to change that suspense later. You're less likely to procrastinate. So that's part of step 1. There's one other thing we have to look at in step 1. We have to talk about values, okay? Our values drive our daily behavior, whether we're aware of those values or not. So values like, I should work hard. People should respect one another. Work hard, play harder. Those are all values that influence the decisions we make on a daily basis. Goal setting is all about doing the right things on a daily basis to get where you want to go in the long run. So we've got to take a look at values because that's going to influence whether we do the work or not every single day. All right? So as we go through this, we'll look at our values and whether those values are setting us up for success or standing in our way. Okay? So you'll do that as you go through step 1. So now we know where you're going to go and we know how that goal aligns with your values. Okay? Step 2 is about figuring out, hey, where am I starting this journey from? This is doing an honest self-assessment, saying, where am I now in relation to where I want to go? So as we talk about step 2, you'll get to try out figuring or doing this honest self-assessment of, okay, what are my assets? What are the things that are working for me that are going to propel me towards my goal? And what are my obstacles? What are the things that might stand in my way, that might hold me back from achieving my goal? So we're going to look at categories like finances, knowledge, physical, mental, support, those kinds of categories to see what you have that's an asset and what might be an obstacle as you pursue the goal. There's one area we really have to focus in on here, and that's what goes on in our heads, our thoughts and our beliefs. Okay, so just like the values, our thoughts and our beliefs influence what we choose to do and what we choose not to do. Okay, so you might have thoughts that push you towards your goal. For example, if I have the belief that I can accomplish anything I put my mind to, that's likely to help me achieve my goal, right? If I have a belief like I'm stupid or I'm never going to amount to much, that's likely to stand in my way and keep me from achieving the goal. So we've just got to be honest and say, hey, what beliefs do I have that are working for me? And which beliefs do I have that are going to get in my way as I go through this process? So that's step 2. So we know where we're going. Now we know where we're starting. In step 3, we're going to take this mountain of a goal and we're going to break it down just a little bit into what we're going to call big rocks. Okay? Big rocks are broad areas, still pretty large, but we have to focus on these areas if we're going to achieve the big goal. Okay? So let me show you an example to make this make more sense. So if the dream goal here is to complete a half Ironman no later than 31 December of next year, here are 4 big rocks for one individual. Physical fitness. It's a large area. There's a lot of work that has to go into that, but that's one area that this individual thinks they have to address to achieve that goal. Nutrition is another one, making sure they're eating the right things. So they're fueling their bodies. Attitude. For this individual, attitude, mindset, thoughts, beliefs, that's going to be a big component of achieving that goal. And the last one is balance, kind of maintaining personal life while training at the same time. Okay, so for one particular individual, those are the large areas, the big rocks, that have to be addressed if they're going to achieve this goal. Okay, so we identify these big rocks based on what we came up with in step 2, where we're doing that honest self-assessment of our assets and obstacles. That's what helps you decide what your big rocks are going to be. Now, each of us in this room could have this goal, but end up with different big rocks. And that's just going to be based on our own situations, our own assets, our own obstacles. Okay? So that's step 3. Now let's look at step 4, deciding what we need to develop. All right, so now that we know where we're going, where we're starting from, and the big rock areas that we need to focus on and do some work within, it's time to really dive into each of those big rocks and plan, okay, what is the work I need to start doing? How am I going to progress towards my goal? Okay, so step 4 is make a plan for steady development. And it's a 2-part step. The first step has to do with creating action statements. What is the work you need to do to start getting closer to your goal? Okay, we've got this SMART acronym here, which offers us some guidelines for creating effective action statements that are really going to push us forward rather than keeping us where we are in relation to our goal. So the first guideline here is specific. Our action statements need to be really specific in saying what work we need to do. They should paint a picture in your head. You should be able to see yourself doing whatever that action statement describes. Okay? They should be measurable. How do we make things measurable? Captain Smith.
Quantifiable with a number?
Yeah, exactly. So our action statements should have numbers in them. So we need to tell ourselves how many times we're going to do this thing, a day, a week, a month. How much time are we going to spend doing this particular action? The more measurable we can make it, the more effective that action statement's going to be in helping us move towards our goal. Our action statements should be action focused. So saying what I am going to do, what work do I need to do, versus saying I don't need to do this or I need to avoid doing this. So if I told myself I'm not going to be lazy, right? First of all, is that telling me what I do need to do? No, it's telling me what I want to not do. And is I am not going to be lazy going to help me move towards my goal? No. Okay, so instead of saying I'm not going to be lazy, tell myself what I am actually going to do instead of being lazy. Action statements should be realistic. Okay? They should be realistic for each one of us individually, given our financial circumstances, our physical state, our physical health, our schedules, things like that. So if I tell myself, you know what, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week, 4 hours a day. Not realistic for me. Probably not realistic for many of you as well. And what's going to happen is I'm very quickly going to fail at that action statement, and I'm going to get frustrated, and then I'm likely just to give up entirely. So we got to make sure these action statements, while challenging, are still realistic. And then finally, our action statements should be time-bound. So put a suspense on these whenever it's possible. All right? Again, it's just the kick in the pants to start doing the work every single day rather than procrastinating and putting it off. Okay? So obviously we have to do some work if we're going to achieve our goals. But it's not enough just to plan what work we need to do. We need to look at one other thing in this fourth step, and that brings us to this. So what do you think this picture means? Yeah.
Don't half-ass.
Don't half-ass it, absolutely. So we know we're going to have to do work to achieve our goal, but we also know that our thoughts and our beliefs and what goes on up here influences whether we choose to do the work every day and make the right decisions to get where we want to go. So we're going to develop attitude statements to help us be very deliberate in planning what we're going to think and what we're going to say to ourselves so that we can make the right decisions and choose to do the work that's going to get us to where we want to go. Okay? So let's look at an example of these attitude statements and what they might look like. We're going to talk about Muhammad Ali, possibly the greatest boxer who's ever lived. Okay? In order for him to pursue his goal of being a great boxer, heck, even to step in the ring, he's got to believe some things to be true of himself. For example, he needs to believe he's fast. So he would tell himself, last night I cut the light off in my bedroom, was in the bed before the room was dark. That's his attitude statement. Okay? He needs to believe that he's strong. So he said to himself, I wrestled with an alligator. Muhammad Ali needs to believe he's tough, right? So he told himself, I hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick. That's tough. And he needs to believe that he's prepared. So he told himself, I've been chopping down trees. I've done something new for this fight. Okay? So his attitude statements are helping him believe all the things he needs to believe. So one, he can stay motivated. And two, he can make the right decisions day in and day out and keep going to training every single day and do what he needs to do to achieve his goal of being a great boxer. Okay? So those are examples of attitude statements. Now let's look at how to develop effective attitude statements. So we've got 4 P's here. Attitude statements should be powerful. They should evoke emotion in you. They should inspire you. Okay? They should be personally meaningful to you. One way to make that happen is to build your attitude statements around your personal values, so they really mean something to you. They should be in the present tense. Right? It doesn't help you very much to say, you know what, I will be strong 3 months from now, but I'm not now. Okay? To start believing and thinking what you need to, you got to put it in the present tense. Tell yourself you're already there. And the final guideline for creating attitude statements is that they're positive. Okay? So telling yourself what you do want to be, what you want to believe of yourself, rather than what you want to avoid. Okay? So telling yourself, I am fast, I am strong, instead of I am not slow, I am not lazy. Okay? Tell yourself what's going to motivate you. All right, so those are the guidelines for the attitude statements. And in a few minutes, you'll get the chance to develop actions and attitude statements for your big rocks. Okay, are there any questions? Yeah, Sergeant Murray.
Do I have to use every step in the exact order when I'm setting a goal?
Okay, so that's a very good question. I'm sure other people were thinking the same thing. Do I always have to do these 7 steps in this order? And when you're first starting out, I would recommend that you start with all 7 steps in order, just to get a feel for the skill. And as you practice the skill more and get more comfortable with it, maybe you feel like you can jump around, reach back to other steps in the process, and use what works for you. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Why do I need to think about values and beliefs as part of this process?
Oh, great question. So we know that goal setting is all about saying, hey, here's this thing I want maybe years down the road, and then doing the right things today and every day between now and then to get to that goal, right? Our values and our beliefs, whether we're aware of them or not, are constantly, every single day, influencing what we do and what we don't do. And because goal setting is all about what we do and what we don't do, making the right choices, doing the right things to get where we want to go, values and beliefs are certainly going to influence the decisions to do the work on a daily basis, to make the right decisions, to sacrifice when we need to. So we have to look at values and beliefs up front and account for those so we know which ones are helping us and which ones we might have to work around. Good question. Any other questions? Yeah, Captain Smith.
How do you know that you have the right big rocks?
Oh, that's a good question. So there is no right answer to this. And you want to start with your step 2 answers and figure out, okay, what were my assets? What were my obstacles? And then just ask yourself, what are the biggest areas that I have to address if I'm going to achieve this goal? And that's going to be different for each one of us. So there's no right answer, just something you have to think through for yourself. Any other questions? Yes.
Do I need more big rocks if my goal is further down the line or even bigger?
Okay, great question. And you might. Again, there's no right answer to that question either. For one goal, maybe 3 to 4 big rocks. For another goal that's the same as far out in time, maybe many more big rocks. So again, just making sure you're hitting all the areas that you think are really important that you have to address to achieve your goal. Great question. Any others? Okay, so you're going to go try out this skill and walk through these steps in just a little bit. Again, this is about not just saying, hey, here's where I want to go, here's what I want to achieve, but then sitting down and really being deliberate in figuring out, okay, what do I need to do? What's working for me? What's working against me? How am I going to compensate for that stuff? How am I going to get to where I want to go? Okay? And it's when you do it deliberately, it's very effective.